And perhaps Dr. Klein mused, it was this spirit of exploration, of endless adaptation, that would answer the Coalition's question. If the aliens sought to understand humanity's evolutionary path, they would learn that humans were not the product of a single evolutionary struggle, but rather a species forged in the fires of 1,000 different challenges, each one shaping humanity into something unexpected. She only hoped the Coalition would be ready for that answer. As the Discovery entered the star system where the Coalition's space station awaited, Dr. Klein stood by the observation deck, looking out at the vast expanse of space. Earth was a distant memory, now just a small blot among countless stars. But her resolve was firm. Humanity had survived without predators, and now, the universe would see what they could do with a chance to thrive. Ready? General Reed's voice broke her reverie. Ready, Dr. Klein replied, a glint of determination in her eyes. The Discovery began its final approach, and with it, the first step of humanity's grandest journey into the unknown. The journey to the Galactic Coalition's space station was smooth, but tension rippled beneath the surface of the human delegation. Dr. Sarah Klein sat quietly in her quarters, reviewing the data on the Coalition's various species. The deeper she dug into their cultures, the more she realized how unique humanity truly was. Every species they encountered had evolved with its own form of survival, often dictated by natural predators or the harsh environments in which they thrived. The Vrelin, the species that had first contacted Earth, were known for their logical minds and philosophical depth. Yet, they had evolved in a predator-free environment, much like humanity, but the Vrelin's culture emphasized intellectual pursuits rather than survival instincts. As the Discovery neared its destination, Dr. Klein couldn't help but feel a growing unease. The Coalition's invitation had been respectful, but the question at the heart of it, the desire to understand why humanity had evolved without natural predators, suggested a curiosity that was not purely academic. There was something else, something unspoken, that lingered in the air. General Marcus Reed, ever the pragmatist, had been preparing for a different kind of mission. While Dr. Klein had focused on diplomacy and scientific inquiry, Reed was readying himself and the crew for the worst. "We don't know these people, Sarah," he had said earlier, his voice low with concern. "You can't trust someone who's never been tested by a real predator." As the ship entered the space station's orbit, a massive, city-sized structure came into view. The station itself was an impressive feat of engineering, a sprawling complex suspended in the void, encased in a shimmering force field. It was a technological marvel, seemingly alive with alien architecture, its various sections interconnected by sprawling walkways and transport tubes that glowed with a soft, otherworldly light. A welcoming signal blinked from the station, inviting the Discovery to dock. Dr. Klein and the rest of the delegation made their way to the docking bay. As they stepped off the ship, they were greeted by Zelrith, the Vrelin diplomat who had first contacted Earth. He was tall, slender, and exuded a calm intelligence that was almost unnerving. His silver-blue skin shimmered in the artificial light of the docking bay, and his eyes were deep, dark pools of thought. "Welcome to the heart of the Coalition," Zelrith said, his voice smooth and controlled. "We're pleased to have you. I hope you have prepared for the discussions ahead." Reed gave a curt nod, but it was clear that his focus was on the surroundings, his military instincts scanning for any signs of danger. Dr. Klein, however, was more focused on Zelrith. His calm demeanor was reassuring, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this invitation than what met the eye. Zelrith led them through the station's corridors. The hallways were pristine, with walls that seemed to pulse with soft energy. Along the way, they passed members of other species, some humanoid, others entirely alien. One creature resembled a floating mass of gas and energy, its translucent form rippling with colors, while another was a massive, armored being with an exoskeleton, seemingly oblivious to their presence. It was a true melting pot of the galaxy. Finally, they arrived at the central hall, a vast chamber with a high, vaulted ceiling and a polished floor that seemed to stretch on forever. A long table sat at the center, surrounded by representatives from various species of the Coalition. At the head of the table was a towering Vrethner, large, reptilian, and with eyes that gleamed with an almost predatory intelligence. The Vrethner were a species of hunters, their biology perfectly adapted for life as apex predators. They were formidable, and their reputation for ruthlessness was known across the galaxy. As the human delegation took their seats, Dr. Klein couldn't help but notice the scrutinizing looks directed toward them. The other species studied humanity as though they were specimens to be dissected, not just a delegation. She tried to keep her composure, but the weight of the moment bore down on her. Zelrith took his place at the head of the table, his voice ringing out in a soft, yet authoritative tone. "We have gathered here to understand something that has long intrigued us. Why are humans the only species to have evolved without natural predators?" Dr. Klein leaned forward. "That is a fascinating question. Humanity's evolutionary path is unique because, unlike other species, we have not been shaped by the same predatory pressures. Our ancestors survived, not through physical dominance, but through adaptability, intellect, and cooperation." The Vrethner representative, Zorith, a massive, imposing figure, snorted in derision. "Adaptability? Cooperation? You humans have no instincts for survival. How do you even consider yourselves top of the food chain without natural predators?" Reed bristled at Zorith's words, but Dr. Klein raised a hand, signaling for calm. "It's precisely because we have no natural predators that we've developed the capacity for innovation. Humanity thrives on overcoming challenges, whether they're environmental, social, or even psychological. We've learned to work together, to think critically, and to use tools in ways no other species has." Zoritha's eyes narrowed. "I find that hard to believe. A species without true survival instincts is a weak one." The conversation quickly grew heated. The other members of the coalition, some intrigued, others skeptical, watched intently as the debate unfolded. Finally, Zelrith raised his hand, signaling for silence. "We respect your explanation, Dr. Klein, but we believe that understanding your species requires more than words. We would like to offer you a demonstration of sorts, a test, if you will." Zelrith's expression was unreadable, but there was a flicker of something, curiosity, perhaps, or even amusement, beneath his composed exterior. "You will face a simulated environment in which you will have to survive. It will be designed to challenge your capacity for survival without the benefit of natural predators." Dr. Klein's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't the kind of inquiry she had expected. "A test?" she asked, her voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. Zelrith nodded. "Indeed. We wish to see for ourselves how humanity reacts when placed in a situation where your survival is at stake. We do not understand how a species can thrive without the predatory pressure that shapes all other life forms." General Reed's eyes flashed with concern, but Dr. Klein could see that his instincts were already on edge. This was more than just an academic exercise. It was a challenge. And it was one that, given humanity's unique evolutionary path, could have unforeseen consequences. "We'll need to assess the risks," Reed said, his voice low. "But if we're going to do this, we do it as a team. We need to stay together." Zelrith gestured toward the far end of the hall, where a massive door slid open to reveal a shimmering force field. Beyond it was a vast, unrecognizable landscape, alien in every sense. The air seemed to shimmer with energy, and the environment was both breathtaking and intimidating. "This is where you will test your survival," Zelrith announced. "A simulated world designed to push your species to its limits. You will be tested physically, mentally, and emotionally. The creatures that inhabit this world are not simply beasts, they are predators, evolved to hunt and survive. Let us see if you can survive in their world, without your instincts leading you." Dr. Klein exchanged a glance with Reed. The stakes had just been raised, and the true nature of the coalition's interest in humanity was becoming clearer. This was no longer a question of curiosity, it was a test. And humanity's response would determine much more than just their future with the coalition. As the team walked toward the simulation chamber, Dr. Klein couldn't help but wonder if the coalition's curiosity about humanity's survival was more than just academic. In a galaxy filled with predators, Were they preparing to see if humans could be a threat or an ally? Either way, one thing was certain. Humanity was about to prove that it wasn't just the lack of predators that had made them unique. It was their ability to adapt, to overcome, and to surprise even the most experienced species in the galaxy. The challenge had begun. The air inside the simulation chamber was thick with tension. Dr. Sarah Klein, General Marcus Reed, and the rest of the human delegation stood at the threshold of the simulated world, their breaths shallow, their minds racing with uncertainty. The walls of the room shimmered as the alien technology activated, and before them, the simulation unfolded, a vast alien landscape, brimming with strange flora and bizarre creatures. This isn't just a test of survival, Dr. Klein muttered to herself, her voice low but sharp with realization. It's a test of everything humanity stands for. The Vrellan diplomat, Zelrith, stood at the far side of the chamber, his silver-blue eyes focused intently on the human team. His voice echoed through the space. You will face challenges unlike anything you have encountered on your homeworld. The creatures here are not mere beasts, they are predators, designed to hunt, to kill, to survive. How you adapt to this environment will determine the outcome. General Reed gripped the edge of his tactical vest, his jaw clenched. This isn't just a survival challenge. They're testing our resolve, our instincts, and our ability to strategize under pressure. Dr. Klein nodded, her mind already beginning to race with possible solutions. Humans had evolved without natural predators, but that didn't mean they were helpless. Instead of relying on physical prowess or sharp instincts, humanity had learned to outthink and outmaneuver challenges. This was a test of human ingenuity and adaptability. If they could survive, it would show the coalition that humanity's greatest strength lay not in the ability to overpower, but in their ability to innovate and persevere. With a quiet hum, the door behind them closed, and the simulation began. The world they entered was eerily quiet, bathed in a soft, unnatural glow. The sky overhead was a deep purple, and strange, luminous plants grew in clusters around them. It was beautiful but alien, a landscape that seemed to defy the laws of nature. Dr. Klein's first instinct was to analyze the surroundings. The air smelled sterile, yet the temperature was moderate. It was almost as if they had stepped into a controlled, artificial world where every element was curated to test their responses. The ground beneath their feet was soft, almost spongy, like the soil of a planet that had never been walked upon by other creatures. Ahead, there was a dense forest of towering trees, their trunks shimmering with bioluminescent veins. It was impossible to ignore the sense of isolation. The team was alone, and they had no idea what lay ahead. The silence was broken by General Reed's gruff voice. "We need to move quickly. Keep your heads on a swivel. This place isn't just a game." Dr. Klein agreed. "We need to understand the environment first. Look for any signs of..." Before she could finish her sentence, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low, guttural growl reverberated through the air. The hairs on the back of Dr. Klein's neck stood up, and instinctively, she reached for the small communicator at her belt. "What was that?" she asked, her voice tight. Zelritha's calm voice came through the earpiece, a detached quality to his words. "You will find out soon enough. The trial has begun. Remember, this is a test of your adaptability." The growl grew louder, and a massive shadow emerged from the forest ahead. It was a creature unlike anything Dr. Klein had ever seen. The beast was quadrupedal, with sleek, segmented armor covering its body. Its eyes glowed an eerie red, and it moved with terrifying speed, its claws digging into the ground with each step. General Reed's hand instinctively reached for his weapon, but Dr. Klein stopped him with a sharp gesture.
"Wait.
We can't fight this thing head-on. We need to think." The creature lunged toward them, and Dr. Klein barely had time to react. The team scattered in different directions, but the creature focused on Reed, its red eyes locked on his movement. Reed ducked behind a large tree, but the creature followed, its claws scraping against the bark as it advanced. "Reed, get out of there!" Dr. Klein shouted. Reed gritted his teeth and activated the camouflage device he had brought with him, a piece of tech that could bend light around his body, making him nearly invisible. As the creature passed by, Reed remained motionless, his body barely perceptible in the shadowed underbrush. Dr. Klein's mind raced. She needed a plan. The creature was too powerful to fight directly, and they had no way of knowing what other dangers lurked in the simulation. But there was something about the environment that felt predictable. It wasn't truly a natural world. It was a simulation, a test. The creature, despite its terrifying appearance, might have weaknesses that could be exploited. "Move," Dr. Klein barked, her voice carrying a note of authority she hadn't realized she possessed. "Split into teams. Try to find higher ground. We'll use the terrain to our advantage." Reed, still cloaked, began to move silently toward the base of a tall, glowing tree. He climbed swiftly, his movements almost imperceptible. The rest of the team followed suit, scaling trees and rocks to get above the creature. The beast paused, its glowing eyes scanning the ground, but it couldn't spot them. The team had effectively used their environment to evade capture. "Now we wait," Dr. Klein said, catching her breath. "We need to learn how this creature behaves. It's smart, but it doesn't seem to have the cognitive ability to think like we do. If we can predict its next move, we might have a chance." The silence was unnerving. The only sound was the creature's low growl, mixed with the occasional rustle of the wind in the strange trees. For a few moments, the team remained hidden, watching the creature as it prowled below them. But then, the growl shifted. It wasn't a threatening noise anymore. It was a sign of hunger, almost a plea for sustenance. "That's it," Dr. Klein muttered under her breath. "This creature isn't just attacking us because it's aggressive. It's hunting for food." A dangerous realization dawned on her. The creature, though powerful, wasn't the apex predator in this world. It was simply following its instincts, hunting for prey. And the true test wasn't just survival, it was about using human intelligence to manipulate the environment, to outwit the predator. "We need to make it think we're the prey," she said. "Get ready to use your tech. We'll set a trap." The team silently began to prepare. Using their environment, they created a makeshift trap, an area where the creature would be funneled into a confined space, surrounded by rocks and trees. The plan was to use the creature's instincts against it, forcing it into a situation where it couldn't escape. As the creature drew closer, Reed activated a small sound emitter, playing the noises of smaller prey animals to draw it in. The beast's eyes locked onto the noise, and it moved quickly, thinking it had found its target. But as it entered the trap, it found itself surrounded, with no clear escape route. The creature roared in frustration, pacing in circles, but it couldn't break free. The team moved quickly, using the brief moment of disorientation to subdue the creature. They didn't kill it, they couldn't afford to kill anything in this test. But they neutralized its ability to harm them, proving that intelligence, not brute strength, was their greatest weapon. As the creature slunk away, defeated, Zelritha's voice crackled in their earpieces. "Well done, humans. You have proven that your adaptability is a strength. But remember, this is only the beginning." Dr. Klein's heart was still pounding, her body drenched in sweat. "We did it," she whispered to herself. "We survived." But deep down, she knew the true challenge was only just beginning. The Coalition's test had only scratched the surface of humanity's potential. Whatever lay ahead would test their ingenuity even further, and perhaps reveal to the galaxy what made humanity truly unique, their ability to face impossible odds and come out victorious. The stakes had just been raised higher. As they regrouped, Reed's voice was grim. "This is only the first challenge. If the Coalition thinks this is all we're capable of, they're in for a surprise." Dr. Klein smiled, a sense of fierce pride swelling in her chest. "This is only the beginning, Marcus. The universe won't know what hit it." The team stood together in the heart of the simulation. After their harrowing encounter with the creature, they had taken only a brief moment to regroup, catching their breath and scanning the landscape. The alien world, despite being an artificial construct, was unforgiving, an environment designed not only to test the human delegation's physical abilities, but to push their minds, their strategies, and their resilience to the limit. Dr. Sarah Klein was still processing the challenge. The creature they had faced was a mere prelude, a test of their ability to survive and adapt under pressure. The Vrelin, the other species of the coalition, were watching them closely, observing their every move. The stakes of this trial had become clearer now. The human race wasn't merely being tested to see if they could survive this world. They were being assessed for something greater. The fate of humanity's place within the Galactic Coalition seemed to hinge on this trial. Would humans be seen as allies, or as a dangerous, unpredictable species capable of surviving and thriving in any environment? Only time would tell. General Marcus Reed's face was set in grim determination, his instincts sharpened by years of military service. He was already planning their next move. We can't keep running. The longer we avoid confrontation, the more likely it is that we'll get ambushed. We need to take the offensive. Let's find out what else this simulation has to throw at us. Dr. Klein looked to Reed, her mind still racing. She had no doubts about humanity's ability to adapt, but what would that truly look like when they were pushed to the brink? Would the human mind's ingenuity and unpredictable strategies be enough to defeat whatever else the simulation could throw at them? What's next? She asked, keeping her voice steady, though her mind was bracing for whatever came next. Zelritha's voice echoed through their earpieces again, calm and deliberate. You've proven your ability to survive and think tactically. However, the true test has yet to begin. Proceed forward, and you will see what comes next. Before they could respond, the ground beneath them rumbled again. This time, the shaking was far more intense. Dr. Klein's heart skipped a beat as a deafening roar filled the air, followed by a crashing sound from beyond the horizon. She turned to see a massive dust storm swirling toward them, black clouds blocking the already dim light. The temperature dropped rapidly, and an unnatural stillness overtook the landscape. Get to higher ground now, Reed barked. His military instincts kicked into high gear as he ushered the group toward a nearby ridge, its craggy edges offering a modicum of safety from whatever the storm heralded. They scrambled up the uneven rocks, the winds howling around them. Dr. Klein's thoughts whirled. This storm, it wasn't just a meteorological anomaly. It felt like the simulation was pushing them into a corner, forcing them to face something far worse than the predator they'd already outwitted. At the top of the ridge, the storm hit them in full force. Sand and debris whipped around in violent gusts, reducing visibility to near zero. The roar from earlier grew louder, until it became clear that whatever was causing it was headed straight for them. Then, in the chaos of swirling dust and noise, something else emerged, a shape, massive and looming, cutting through the storm like a battering ram. A massive creature, bigger than anything they had encountered before. It was a grotesque amalgamation of various predatory traits, massive claws, sharp teeth, and a heavily armored body designed for maximum lethality. Its eyes, glowing a sinister red, locked onto them, and the earth trembled as it moved with terrifying speed. "This is it," Reed muttered, the strain in his voice betraying the tension. "We're dealing with a predator that isn't just dangerous, it's intelligent. This one's been designed to kill." Dr. Klein quickly scanned the creature's movements, noting the way it seemed to move with purpose, as if it had been hunting for them specifically. The other predators they had faced so far were driven by instinct, but this one was different. It wasn't just a creature of brute force. It was calculating, deliberate, almost as though it was playing a game. "We need to outsmart it, not overpower it," Dr. Klein said, trying to keep her voice steady as she thought through the problem. "We can't outrun it. This thing is built for pursuit. But if we can get it to chase us into a trap, we might have a chance." Reed's eyes narrowed. "I like the idea, but this thing isn't stupid. It'll adapt fast." "No time to waste," Dr. Klein shot back. "We need to create confusion. Use the terrain. The storm's already disorienting it." The creature lunged, the air rippling with the force of its movement. With a cry, it bounded toward them, but Dr. Klein's eyes were already scanning their surroundings for an opportunity. The storm had already given them some cover, but it was also a double-edged sword. Just as it obscured the creature's vision, it did the same for them. We can't just run. We need to give it a reason to chase us into a vulnerable position, she said, thinking rapidly. Reed turned to her with an approving nod. All right, what's the plan? Dr. Klein pointed toward a narrow ravine to the east. If we can get it to follow us into that ravine, we can use the cliffs to trap it. The team quickly took their positions, moving swiftly and quietly along the edge of the ridge, using the storm as cover. They'd bait the creature, draw it into the ravine, where the narrow space would limit its movements and make it easier to neutralize. As the creature charged forward, its massive claws gouging the earth beneath it, the team scattered once more. Dr. Klein's heart raced as she and Reed drew the creature's attention, moving in tandem. They lured it toward the ravine, using the storm's chaos to confuse it, all while silently praying the plan would work. The creature took the bait. It crashed forward, its claws tearing into the ground as it chased after them with frightening speed. But just as they reached the ravine's mouth, they dodged to the side, and the creature barreled into the narrowing corridor. Now, the team had only moments to act. Dr. Klein and Reed sprang into action. They set off a series of explosive charges, small, compact devices designed to create disorienting bursts of sound and light. The creature's attention was completely diverted, and it stumbled into the trap. The walls of the ravine constricted around it, making it nearly impossible for the beast to maneuver. It roared in frustration, its claws raking the stone walls as it tried to break free. The team held their breath, watching the massive predator struggle within the trap they had set. Now, Dr. Klein said, her voice strained with exhaustion but victorious. We've won. For the first time in the simulation, the human team had truly outsmarted their foe, not by brute strength or sheer luck, but by exploiting the one advantage they had over every other species, their ability to think and adapt. Zelrith's voice came over the comms again, this time with a hint of admiration. You have done it, humans. You have proven your worth not just as survivors, but as strategists. The trial is complete. Humanity had always looked to the stars, but in recent years, the gaze had grown more hopeful. The rapid expansion of Earth's space programs had resulted in the first human colony on Mars and the establishment of permanent research stations on the Moon. Yet, nothing could prepare Earth for the message that arrived one cold, silent night, transmitted from the depths of the galaxy. It was a transmission not just of data, but of intent, a polite, formal invitation for first contact. The Galactic Coalition, a collective of advanced alien species, had extended their hand to humanity. It was an opportunity that humankind had dreamed of for centuries. The message itself was cryptic yet clear in its inquiry. Why are humans the only species that evolved without natural predators? The invitation left Earth's leadership in a mix of awe and confusion. Dr. Sarah Klein, a leading evolutionary biologist, was summoned to the United Nations Emergency Briefing Room, where top scientists, diplomats, and military leaders were gathered to discuss the implications. Dr. Klein had spent much of her career studying the evolutionary anomalies of Earth's species. She was well aware of humanity's curious trajectory in the natural world, an apex predator with no natural predators of its own. But why would the Galactic Coalition, a group of species from across the universe, care about that? The message from the coalition had been signed by Zelrith, an alien diplomat from the Vrellan species. The Vrellan were known for their unflinching logic and philosophical musings, often translating the thoughts of other races for the Galactic Coalition. Despite the years of space exploration, Earth had yet to make direct contact with any alien race, and now, here they were, asking about humanity's most unusual feature. A general sense of urgency filled the room as Dr. Klein joined the conference. A holographic screen displayed a map of the galaxy, with a blinking light at its center, marking the location of the Coalition's space station. The delegation would leave within the week to meet with the aliens. The first few hours of the meeting focused on logistics, preparing the human delegation for the journey and anticipating what might come next. The military side of things, led by General Marcus Reed, dominated much of the conversation. We don't know these people, or if they even are people, General Reed said, his voice gruff as he reviewed the data on the Vrelin. They might be curious, but that doesn't mean they have benign intentions. I'm not comfortable sending a team to their home base without adequate preparation. I agree, said Dr. Klein, adjusting her glasses. But it's important to understand the nature of their question. Why would they specifically ask about our lack of predators? It could be a test. Or it could be that they genuinely do not understand the concept of a species evolving without such pressures. In some parts of the galaxy, it's considered a rarity, a sign of unusual adaptability. We can't risk looking weak, General Reed replied, his tone hard. Humans are new to the galactic scene, and we need to make an impression. We don't even know what these aliens are capable of. The discussion became heated, with Dr. Klein advocating for diplomacy and insight, while Reed pushed for military readiness. The tension between scientific exploration and security was palpable. But it was clear that the decision was not just about meeting the aliens. It was about setting the stage for humanity's place in the greater galactic order. By the end of the day, a decision was made. Dr. Klein, General Reed, and a handful of other specialists, ranging from linguists to engineers, would head the human delegation. They would travel aboard the newly designed Discovery ship, a symbol of human advancement, capable of withstanding the long journey to the Coalition station. The next morning, Dr. Klein sat in her office, reviewing the message from Zelrith again. The question echoed in her mind. Why are humans the only species that evolved without natural predators? The implications of that question were far-reaching. Evolution was a brutal process. Survival was often decided by who could outlast their predators. Most species evolved defenses: speed, strength, venom, camouflage. But humanity? They had no such physical advantages. Instead, humans relied on tools, intellect, and social cooperation. They had dominated their environment not through raw strength, but through ingenuity and the ability to work together to overcome nearly any obstacle. She wondered what the Coalition knew of other species' evolutionary paths. Did their members all share a predatory history? Would that make humanity's rise in the galaxy seem alien to them? And what did Zelrith mean by his question? Was it a challenge, a curiosity, or an invitation to learn from humanity's success? Dr. Klein was the first to admit that she wasn't sure how humans would fare on the galactic stage. While Earth had made great strides in technology and space exploration, it was still a relatively young player in a universe that had seen civilizations rise and fall for millennia. And if the Coalition's question was an indication of how seriously they viewed humanity, then this meeting would be the defining moment for Earth's future. The following days were a whirlwind of preparations. Dr. Klein and her team studied the known facts about the Coalition species. Some were humanoid, while others were radically different in form, like the Vrethner, a large, reptilian species known for their incredible strength and predatory nature. Their reputation for hunting, even in galactic politics, was daunting. General Reed ensured that every member of the delegation was trained for possible contingencies, including close combat scenarios and space warfare, though the latter seemed unlikely. There were also numerous drills in diplomatic negotiation, as Earth had no history of dealing with multi-species coalitions, let alone ones composed of both peaceful and potentially dangerous races. Throughout it all, Dr. Klein found herself reflecting on humanity's evolutionary advantage, or lack thereof. If the Coalition sought to understand why humans were so different, they would have to look beyond simple biology. The true answer lay in humanity's unyielding drive to adapt and survive, to find solutions in unexpected places. No other species in the galaxy, as far as she could tell, had faced the relentless variety of challenges humans had faced and overcome. The day of departure arrived, and Dr. Klein stood at the launch pad, gazing at the Discovery. The ship was sleek and designed for long-distance travel, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. As she boarded, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into the unknown, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. What kind of aliens would she meet? What would they think of humanity? The journey to the Galactic Coalition space station took several weeks. During that time, Dr. Klein's thoughts kept returning to the question posed in the message. She had a theory that humans were not just survivors, they were born explorers. Evolution had shaped humanity to not just endure, but to find new ways to live, to think, and to connect. It was this deep-seated need to discover that had fueled humanity's rise from the caves to the stars. Dr. Klein exhaled deeply, her body shaking with the adrenaline rush. She exchanged a look with Reed. They had done it, they had survived. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their ability to conquer, but in their ability to adapt, to overcome, and to innovate. The simulation faded away, and they found themselves back in the chamber where they had started. Zelrith and the other members of the coalition were standing, watching them in silence. "Your actions have demonstrated something remarkable," Zelrith said, his tone now far warmer than before. "You humans possess the kind of adaptability and ingenuity that few species can rival. You are a force to be reckoned with, and we believe that your species will be an invaluable ally to the coalition." Dr. Klein looked at Reed and the others. This wasn't just a victory for them, it was a victory for humanity. They had proven that no matter the odds, humanity's greatest weapon was their capacity to innovate and thrive in any environment. And as the galaxy watched, humanity had made its mark. "We've earned our place here," Reed said, a small smile tugging at his lips. Dr. Klein nodded, a glint of determination in her eyes. "And we're just getting started."